So today we're talking to Fernando Beker, CEO of Beker Co. Welcome, Fernando.
Hi, thank you.
We're really excited because Fernando actually has a very cool company called Beker Co. that he's the CEO of, and he has 20 plus years of leadership. He has 300 plus associates, and he's in 4 different countries, and he's got 4 delivery centers. He has his doctorate. And what we're going to be talking about as Fernando's thought leadership is the future of work, which is really interesting and exciting. But today we're going to talk about the story behind the story, which is what led you to where we are today. So we always start with a few icebreaker questions. If you could live your life in one sitcom, which sitcom would that be?
Uh, I don't know, but I love The Office. Now we start being all the Office sitcom, and it's very similar than the real life. Obviously, it's a sitcom, but it's real. It's very similar than the real life, and should be interesting and very funny to be this kind of sitcom.
That's a good choice. I think we can all identify with The Office too because of all of the different personalities that work there. Like if we don't identify with Michael as much, although I don't know anybody who doesn't at least think he's hilarious, we can identify with one of the characters as somebody that we've worked with or see ourselves in one of those people. Okay, and one more quick one. If you could only use one word to describe yourself, what is that one word?
I don't know one word to define myself. Um, I'm so focused, I think. I'm focused. When I focus in one stuff, I go very deep in that, and usually forget about everything in world, and then I go to other stuff and
So
focus in that, and
focused.
happens. Yes.
Yeah, focused. Yeah, I can see that. Let's talk a little bit about the future of work and how you connect your love of history because we
Mhm.
want your so you have a passion, because we always talk about passion when it comes to thought leaders. You have a passion for history, and then how you kind of apply that for the future of work.
Well, when I was in high school, in the past that we didn't have this Amazon Kindle or other technologies to read, and we used to read in books in paper. I read a book that really changed my mindset. It was a not very important book in terms of the concept, but for me it was important that is the Bill Gates. I think that the first book of Bill Gates, I don't remember exactly the name, like something like Gateway to the Future. And in the intro, Bill Gates said, or wrote, I want to talk about the future. For me, the future will be that. He started talking about police cars connected with the central to have information that really was nobody in the 94, 95 was talking about that. And he started talking and said, okay, sounds like Back to the Future movie, nothing special, right? But he wrote that said, okay, I'm writing a book about the future, and I lead a company of 5,000 great engineers working in that future. It's not that I'm another guy talking about how will be the future. And really, for me, was really so powerful that because usually the people talking about the future are only in the academic side and trying to imagine how will be the trends, or it's very hard to do that. That's the problem with talking about how will be the future. But if you are be a business people, uh, leading a company working in that trends, you know more about the real aspect of the technology. And that's the reason that when I could, I founded that company. Bekerco is working in really the future of work about robots, software robots, that's technology called RPA, robotic process automation with machine learning, artificial intelligence, and other technology. But the importance of that is that I'm working in one of the trends of technologies. Are other trends of technologies are autonomous car. I don't know nothing about autonomous car, not more than the normal people. But in the trends that I work, that's how will be the office of the future in 30 years, right? You will not need the accountant doing the same that you see the accountant working with Michael. Uh, and I'm working in that, and I love to create technology over that and trying to be part of the design of the future, right? This is for me the most important in that about uh, why I'm working in that. And about the history, if you want to create the new trends, to create the future, uh, I like to understand where I'm seated in the time frame, right? This is uh, almost everybody that are not very concerned with history think that they are creating the new world, and
Yeah.
this is the most important change of the humanity, and humanity will change as never was seen. And we start seeing the history. You see that happened a lot of time in the past, and not exactly the same because really it's a history, but happens important stuff a lot of times, and the people still be people and still continue learning stuff and adapting to the new stuff. And in general, is the life is improving, the quality of life is improving, the expectative of life is improving in all the world, not only in the developed countries, in US, in Europe, in Japan, in almost the country are improving that, and it's interesting seeing the history perspective and worldwide perspective, right?
Yeah, it's true. You tell me about your career path and how that happened because you were at Accenture and then
Hmm.
and we should say if we haven't already that Beaker Co is actually a is robotics automation, right? Um,
Hmm.
how do you go from that consulting to creating this software, like that is in the category of the really the future at the time I think was the future. What does that leap look like?
Really, if I go back from the high school, during my high school I did internships as a teacher of computer teaching, Word, Excel, Windows of that age during the 90s. And after read that book, I said I have to do something by myself to can help to create the future. It's really doing teaching a professor is very nice work, but it's for some kind of people like more intellectual and more like trying to have the love to get knowledge and to transfer the knowledge to other people.
Right.
In my case, I like to trying to create that and to solve problems, doing solving problems. This is like my constant in my life is trying to solve problems and complaining about the problems first. I when I when I was kid, always you are complaining. Your fathers always you are complaining of everything. When I was a kid, small kid, yes, I complained all my life, and after that, I understand that it's a career path to people that complains everything for everything that is a consultant, management consultant, because you have to go to a company trying to understand what's the problem in that company
Yeah.
and then start thinking the solution. But some people in management consulting only keep with the complaining stuff because it's important to understand the problem, analyzing the problem. They say that is the most important part. I don't know if it's most important, but it's important to understand. And if you don't have this personality of trying to understand the problem, to complain about that, to trying to improve, it's not management consulting for you. And I love IT, and I studied my bachelor degree in IT in my home country, when I born and raised, that is Argentina. And then I started jumping to first management consulting roles during in Latin America, there in the US. I did my MBA, and after my MBA, I joined more like focus in management consulting, and in management consulting first in Wipro and then in Accenture. I under that there this kind of technology with the AI, with artificial intelligence,
Mhm.
like robotic process automation and other technologies is interesting part to create the future. And in my 33 years, I started this company, and I didn't think too much about that. Really, I wanted to do that I like to do. And this moment, I like to do some kind of robotic stuff. And then I had a lot of luck because 4 years after that, robotic process automation was very trendy. After during the COVID, everybody started talking about these new technologies that could help to support some kind of works during the COVID stage. And now in the, I don't know, we are in the after COVID or maybe after COVID stage. This technology now is very consolidated. And I had the luck, very good luck, to be in the correct place in the correct moment.
Yeah. Yeah. And when we say robotic automation, we're not talking about actual robots, right?
Mhm. No, yes, in the concept, some people don't like that the concept is called robotic process automation because are not robots, physical robot that is
Right.
typical in the industry. But the concept that how works, yes, it's like a robot, but it's a robot working in your PC or in the servers, trying to emulate that the human are doing. They don't have physical arms, but they have a kind of arms working with the screens, doing stuff. And for me, it's okay. It's not the typical robot that you can imagine, but it's kind of robot.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but some people, when you say robotics, automatically assume the kind of robots that have been on the Tonight Show, right? That have a name, they can sing, But so I just wanted to be clear, it's really software-based robotics and not physical robotics.
Yes, and what when we started a lot in a lot of sessions, say, okay, I like, but what is your robot, right? Because some people believe that the robot was seated in the desk and working with the PC because they understand it, that it's a robot working with the PC and doing stuff in Excel, in SAP, in Salesforce, whatever. But they believe really, I don't know how they imagine a robot sitting in the desk and doing that. But 3 years ago, still happened that a lot, a lot.
Yeah.
How works your robot? Can I see that? No,
Yeah.
but can I see where is no? Is and it was very very funny this
If that
moment.
was
But
the case, Fernando, I want one to cook and clean and
Mm.
do my chores and
But
well,
still, are a lot of robots in Europe, you know, it's not very common in US, but in Europe, are kind of robots that cook almost everything. And it's a Sherman robot. I don't want to advertise nothing, but in almost Europe, no, it's like they say, okay, put here the carrot, put here the milk, put here this amount of that, and then robots are doing everything. It's like small robots like this size, and it's crazy, but now it's in place, right? In the US, they prefer to buy like freeze food when you don't have time. But in the Europe that they love more, that they have more passion about food, they don't like the freezing food, and they use this kind of robot to do. It's almost the same kind of food,
well,
but to do
so you
more
know what
fresh.
I picture for robotics for food is when you can go to one of those vending machines that make hot pizza to order. So you choose what kind of pizza you want, and it goes through this process of it getting the dough, putting on what you want through the vending machine, and then I guess it cooks for a couple minutes or whatever it is. And then it comes, I've never had it, but I've seen videos of it. And we have them in Canada, but and people say they're pretty good. So I guess that's like a robotic automation, right?
Yeah, this is other kind of robotic that is it's this complement of this kind of the robot that I work are only working like in back office
Yeah.
activities, but a lot of lack of people working in labor shortage is around restaurants and bars and this kind of work that you said. I saw a few months ago. I don't know if now it's proving in Toronto where you are, but there are closing restaurants
Yeah.
because there are not people working that. And if you think almost all food you can do not very complex or not very gourmet, you can do with robots. Um, for sure, a Michelin star restaurant you cannot do by
Yeah.
robots,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. I would,
McDonald's,
yeah.
you need
I
people
wouldn't
to.
classify the pizza from a vending machine as gourmet for sure. But yeah. But I
Yeah,
guess if you're traveling and you're on the road and you want something hot, and especially during COVID, there was no restaurants open. Some of them had takeout, I suppose, but in our northern areas, I guess it's better than nothing. And it's
but
pizza. I mean, come on.
if you think about to work in a kitchen in typically it's a very risky situation, right? The people say, oh, these guys, they don't want to work, but really working in the kitchen is very risky. You have a very hot oil, you are working with knife, very dangerous. And if you are thinking in another stuff for 10 seconds, you can be in an accident. Really, you are working with a very warm environment without the best conditions. And maybe I think that in the future, in 50 years or 100 years, the people will say, oh, poor the people that working in the kitchens, right? It's very, no, not the family kitchen. I think the restaurant kitchen. I don't know if you went to any restaurant kitchen, but not in the fancy hotels, in a typical restaurant. It's a very dangerous place, and it's not great to work in this kind of stuff. And I think that it's good to have this kind of robots to do almost that the food that typically you eat in the lunch, these cheap menus that you go only to
Yeah.
30 minutes, take a lunch. It should be everything robotized for me. And I think in the future will be because the people now they don't want to like. I heard a situation that the owners of the restaurants are improving the condition of the kitchen because really as are a lack of people working cookers and this kind
Yeah.
of they don't want to like in a really bad environment.
Yeah. I mean, I think that in some parts of the world that would be sacrilege. I mean, the one thing that stuck out to me when because we used to go to Italy in Sicily every year, you could go to any gas station stop along the autostrada and they had the best sandwiches that some nonna probably made because everything is put, you can tell it's all handmade, and it was worth every single penny that we paid for it because it was fresh and it wasn't, just slapped together by a machine. But then you come over to North America where we have these big jugs of coffee and, we don't have a lot of time to even stop and eat, then it makes sense. Like, you can automate whatever you can automate, and it takes a lot of the risk out. And because we're having problems finding people for not just in kitchens though, Fernando, in even servers, right?
Mhm.
Just because they had to get other jobs during COVID. And so, I mean, that's part of the solution. Now, it's interesting how that those trends start in different parts of the world, right?
Yes, but these are like different. The culture is very important in the situation. You go to Mexico and you think about tortilla, right? Tacos and tortilla. And 100 years ago, all the tortillas was handmade by ladies working there, and now today in Mexico, less than 5% or 3%, 95 or 97% of the tortillas are made by machine. And like people know that typically tacos is by this manufactured tortilla, but where you are in a wedding, for example, right? In
Yep.
the Mexican culture, the taco is important, but the tortilla is handmade. It's not. They are not using the tortilla of the vending machine. They are using the important tortilla doing handmade, and they have
Yep.
like other flavor. That is a situation that is interesting where any society evaluates the work, right? For to do a taco of everyday taco and to pay the kilo of tortilla is the pound of tortilla in Mexico is around 30 cents, the US dollar. And if you buy the same handmade, maybe 10 times more expensive, between 5 and 10 times. People say, okay, to eat this day-to-day stuff, I use the manufacturer, but for the important situation, in a wedding, in the birthday or something, you are using the other that they have another charm, right? And
Yep.
the same happened for sure. I imagine in Sicily that say, okay, this has another flavor, typical flavor of the pizza you have to run. In the future, you have the vending machines of pizza, but when you go for a anniversary dinner or something, you will want the handmade pizza, right? But it
Yeah.
will be for situation, important situation, not for day to day, because the day to day is important that this to improve the quality of life, you have to lose a bit of these flavors and use it in special situations.
Yeah, I think that's true. And it also, that sort of difference from culture to culture, I think also applies to what you're going to be talking about with the future of work, right? Because how you see the future of work will be different in Argentina or Mexico, North America, or even, London in the UK, right? Because it's
Yes,
just very regional.
some kind of words are very standard in all the world, right? Some kind of word, but others not. Example in supermarkets. You go to the supermarket in Canada, and now exists two situations. The do by yourself, and
Yeah,
you start doing by yourself,
yeah,
and you do all the process. And the other is you have there in line, and you have a person helping to you to pass there to church and to put in bags, right?
Yep.
In Mexico, for example, you can do the same. You go to Walmart, and the Walmart are exactly designed the same Walmart in Mexico, in Argentina, or in the US. Are exactly, you take a picture without people, without the prices, and without nothing, right? You don't. It's impossible to say that this Walmart is Mexico or is in the
Yeah.
US. But then in Mexico, for example, exists a role that is one all the people after the cashier that are putting the stuff into the bags. That you go to a line, you have the cashier and you have the person putting the bags. You need the person in the bag, really? No. The people know that they are not value add at this time. But culturally, they like because the people think that they are helping all people without incomes to have a better quality of life, right? Today are exist, but this is culturally, for example, in Mexico. And then in Mexico, you finish that and you go to the parking, and it's other people asking to help you with the we go from the door of the Walmart to your car and putting this in your car, and you give another tip to these kind of people. And in US, it's nobody doing that, right?
No.
But the culturally, the people don't want that. They say, okay, I want to do by myself. I don't know other. But in Mexican culture, they'll say, okay, I want to help, or this is a role that's good, right? This is an example of how this in the same condition, because it's the same Walmart, the same company with the same layout, the works happens differently. Yes? Trends are the in work will be more and more standard and happens now in after COVID or during and now in the pre-after COVID. A lot of people that realize that it's the same that the people is in office or out the office, and it's the same that the people is working is in the US or in Bahamas or in
Wherever.
Costa Rica or whatever. The only concern is that connect at that time and do the task. And these are helping in my opinion, to be more standard the work, because the American way to do the work is that they are like using in the rest of the hemisphere for sure, in Europe for long, and will continue expanded during the war.
Yeah. So is pre after COVID, is that a thing? Is that like a time period? We're
Then
just
I don't know
after.
where are yes, we are the pre-after, right? Because I don't know if still we are in COVID or not.
I don't know
I,
either.
I I travel too much to Texas, for example, to Dallas and Houston, and for these people are finishing like 6 months ago, right? And nobody cares about that. In other places, people are very concerned. It's according the place, but yes, we are for sure. I hope that we are in the last stage of this pandemic.
Yeah, I hope so too. So I wanna just pause for a second because I want to ask you sort of a mid to near the end point of an icebreaker. And it relates to your platform, which is the future of work. What When you were a little boy, what was the first thing you remember about wanting to be when you grew up?
Uh, my father was doctor, is doctor, and I think all my aunts and uncles are doctors, medical doctors, and say, okay, for sure, the people expect that you continue being doctor, right? So that father and but I starting to like when I was very small the computer stuff, like because my father is doctor, was very like uh, curious about that technologies, started using the computer for their services, and I started to use computer very, very small. And I think that all my life I was thinking about to do or in computer or something. I didn't understand what happened, but something about computing, programming, or uh, or working in law, like attorney in law, something
Hmm.
like this.
A
Because
lawyer?
as always, I complaining about everything. The people believe that I will be, yes, working in the courts, trying to challenge that. And but yes, I selected well, I selected IT when I finished in my high school, because I wanted a work that I can do in every place of the world. Because at this time, now it's a bit better, but if you're attorney law registered in the court
Yeah,
or in the board of Argentina, you cannot work in other countries. You only
exactly.
work in your state.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to do that, and I selected that about that, to have the liberty to move up to the place of the world that I wanted.
It was that was a pretty amazing decision considering what your age was. Like that was a mature decision that a lot of people would be if they were sort of thinking about law because of your personality and you like to complain a lot about things. It was visionary at that age to say, "Yeah, but that's going to limit me. I want to do something that I could move anywhere globally."
Well, I don't know, it's too much, because I'm born and raised in Argentina. Argentina is in the extreme of the world. We are so isolated, really. If you see Buenos Aires, it's so isolated. It's not an important city close there. It's not the same to be in US, that is almost a continent, or Canada, that you have Toronto, Vancouver, other cities that you can say, okay, I moved to others from Toronto to Vancouver. You are moving like a lot of culture. You are moving more the Asian culture. Really, it's very nice, right? To move to the European, go to Quebec, and you are almost in France. This is it's some different cultures. In Argentina, not. That you know that when you rise, that you are in a pretty small in population country, not too much diverse, and for sure when you rise in Argentina, you have this like connection, and your grandfather or grand grandfather typically came from Europe, and your family, when you are very small, talking about, no, in Europe the things are better. In Europe, when your grandfather came, was very poor, but now it's good, and you have to see these different cultures, and it's totally different than the mindset that maybe a guy or a girl raising in the US can change almost everything inside the same country.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's amazing. But it was interesting for you some of the things that you did. Um, what was the story about? Because people don't mostly know how Argentina was formed, by what cultures, right?
Yeah, Argentina is a very crazy country. It's like out of the standards of everything. That is a study case for the universities in almost all aspects, right? Because Argentina is like a country that almost the people came from immigrants, and not very old immigrant that maybe you have in other countries that 200 years ago, 300. This is all your grandfathers, or in some cases grand grandfathers, came from other countries. This is a country that we speak Spanish, but the almost immigration in Buenos Aires, the city that I born, is from Italy, and we speak like With Spanish with Italian accent. The
We
food
just
is,
so
yeah,
I
it's
have to pause
crazy.
at that. Spanish with an Italian accent, right?
Yeah, the accent, if you heard, if you don't know Spanish, you see these people are talking Italian. Nobody thinks that we are talking Spanish. It's not like Mexico, Colombia. It's very clear that we are talking Spanish in Argentina, not.
That's
Uh,
hilarious. That's
and with a lot of words in Italian, really a lot of words in Italian, and it's a mix. It's interesting mix, and the food is very influenced by Italy, right? It's not like Mexico. You have native food with corn. In Argentina, we don't have nothing of native food. It's like a customized food from Europe that we customize to the flavor, local flavors and the ingredients that you have in Argentina.
yeah. I didn't know that about Argentina, and it wasn't just Italy, it was Sicily, wasn't it?
Yes, almost the people came from the south of Italy, the immigrants, some from the north, but typically from the south.
Yeah.
And really, that's the mix that happens in Argentina. I think is very crazy, non-organized country. Nothing about Sicilian, right? But it's the culture is very, very similar to the south of Italy. And but some people say yes, we are like Sicily, but not in the European Union. And that's the problem that we have.
Yeah. Yeah, no, so because that's where I used to go. That's where my ex's family was in Sicily. So I love Sicily, but it's certainly very, but I've traveled all over, well, Europe, but Italy specifically. And I would think that at the time, back when you're talking about your great grandfather coming over, Sicilian was almost a different language from Italian because it was a different dialect, right? So I can imagine you know, what happened to the language over time. So, and that's why too, I'm excited, when you start doing releasing your videos, because you talk about some things in the future work that are really related regionally, and I won't get into it because I don't want to spoil anything, but it's so interesting how different areas of this globe have different outcomes and futures and how work will be performed. So and I think it's very visionary, but it's so interesting. So do you think that the pandemic and the lockdowns accelerated the sort of accelerated us to get sort of into the future of because of how we're connected now?
Everybody says yes, right? It's all the authors say yes. The technologies was in place. Really, Zoom is not new, or other RPA is not new, but for sure, yeah, it's accelerating not because we are developing too much technologies. Other technologies, yes, are improving, but for sure, it's accelerating about the change of mindset. I think the change of mindset was very important. Um, I started to do remote meetings before the pandemic, and a lot of people wanted that I go physically and say, okay, not right. And I lost opportunity, say no, because I travel, I will have only one meeting in one day. And if I remotely, I have 8 meetings or 12 meetings a day. I cannot do that. At this time, 3 years ago, was like crazy. This guy is, please teach him how to manage a business. But now it's a normal, it's a new normal.
Yeah. Yeah. So it helped with adoption
In the
of the,
adoption, right? The adoption because they change of mindset before.
yeah. Yeah. Which is fascinating also. Okay. I have one last icebreaker question and then we can wrap it up. So if you were stranded on an island by yourself,
Mhm.
what three things would you bring with you?
Um, in okay, for sure, a knife. I imagine to eat something. Uh, Clothes to have there, and I think that maybe it sounds rare, but shampoo to use or soap to use. This is most important stuff I think to
So
be alone.
knife, clothes, and shampoo.
Yes, that's important to be.
No, no books, no nothing.
You will finish the books, right? It depends
That's
how
true. That's
long you will
true.
be, but
It's
you will
true.
finish the books and
It's true. So, as a final question, I like to ask this because it takes us back to sort of your history.
mhm.
What was the best when you were sort of starting in your work career? What was the best piece of advice you were ever given, and by who?
Given to me.
Yeah,
Okay. Um, I had a lot, but I think that the best is the best are when are not basic, right? When you are taking a coffee in the coffee machine and say, okay, one is you have to be in a company that is the core that you are aligned and doing the core of that company. Because example, in that time I was working in an oil and gas company and I was from IT, right? I had only 1 year working in this kind of company. Say, okay, IT always will be expense for the company. It's not
right,
the core of the company. If you will want to work in IT, you have to go to an IT company. If you want to drill oil in the soil, you have to go to a oil and gas company because you have to be in the core business. That's the best way to do a good career, to be well compensated, and to feel that you are doing important.
and who gave you that?
My boss, my boss at this moment.
That's cool. And just sort of a final question, because there was something interesting that you kind of flipped the script on. One of your executives that you hired used to be your boss at Accenture.
Mhm.
So how was that?
For me, that's always I understood that the market is small, and always I trying to be well with the people that I'm supervising and the people that is supervising me. Always, I never took nothing personally, uh, and I think that this is a role. Okay, today my role is to be analyst because I don't have enough experience to supervise a team. This is my role today. This guy is supervised or lady is supervising me, uh, but in the future roles will be changed and happens too much in my life. And for example, when I went to this oil and gas company, I moved to the IT company that my former um, provider that I had to supervise, then converted my manager.
Oh,
Uh, and nobody happens. I was in that role. Today I'm in that role, and
yeah.
he was ugly. But with my colleagues, what the problem? Because they said, "Oh, this is the guy that are complaining about me always and asking for more." Yes, but that was my role at this time. Now I have another role. My former manager understood that, but some of my colleagues not.
Right. Yeah, I just thought it was interesting when we were speaking. I didn't know that. I didn't know that he used to be your boss at Accenture, but it's um it's all good. Listen, I've hired people who used to be my boss many years ago, and it's just kind of weird. Like it just, I don't know. I mean, they're okay
For
with it. It's, you know,
for me was very great that because I know him, I know how he works, I understood everything, his failures, and he know my failures, and it's good to have this situation, and happens a lot typically when the age is something about the aging, right? And it's not the only situation. I have some in the company that I hired former bosses, and it's about aging, right? That there are people at some age they don't want too much executive tasks. No, not this case, other cases, and they prefer to be more specialist focused and say, I don't have any problem that Fernando is
it's true.
doing that, right?
Yeah, you know, I find strange. I realized as I was building my career that at a point in your career when you're going from, say, a director to a VP, like, or part of the C-suite, you stop you stop performing your craft and just start managing people who do it. So you you're not able to do what you really love to do. So at some point you have to make a decision on, do I want to just manage people and manage them to budget and all of that, or do I want to stay in my craft? And so I'd never, I guess, really thought about it that way. And, you know, process is not my strong point. I'm because I focus more on the creative and you know, dealing with
Yes, but
people.
these situations are logic, and the company is like the new slogan. I'm spoiling that, but the new slogan is company because say how we change the work, right?
Yeah,
And one guy that's so smart is working here in the invoicing part. You say invoicing is not so important, but he told me, "No, it's not about the task; it's about the mission." I had the mission that the company get the revenue streams working and the rest of the company can get the payroll at the time. It's not only to do the invoice, it's my mission that the revenue stream continue working. Because it's over qualified for the situation. If you see that, and for me, it's the same. I'm doing a lot of tasks. I for sure I prefer to be programming the new AI. I have 300 developers. I can add too much value with 300 people. Now my mission is that it works for everybody, right? And I using my WhatsApp almost a day and answer email, but I'm not thinking about the task and boring. For me, the
yeah,
mission is the work is about the mission. The
yep,
job is about mission, not
exactly.
no task.
100%. 100%. But all I'm saying is that when you're building your career, at some point when you're leveling up, it's not about the task, it's about the mission,
Yes,
right? And
exactly.
so when you have people that actually recognize even while they're doing their task, but again, it makes a difference if you are the core performing tasks at the core of the company or your ancillary services like communications. So, you know what I mean? So,
Yes, yes.
yeah. So, at some point, it just becomes all about the mission and not about what you're really good at sometimes. And so, when I hired my boss, it was a situation where when he was my boss, he didn't want to be at that level. He was a writer and a really good writer. And I respected him as a writer. And so that's what I hired him as because that's what he wanted to do. So it just, and I trusted him and he does good work. But I just think that I respected him as a boss, but I knew really what he wanted to do was right. So, I mean, that was his background. And so not everybody has the same mission. And so it's interesting how, even within companies over time, if you want to continue to move up, you kind of have to put aside your passion a little bit and buy into the mission of the company to manage the people that will keep things running, right?
Yes, it's important. The one concept in that is power distance, right? The societies that you have a big power distance, another not, and the Argentinian society is very, in that case, is low power distance, or not too much power distance. It's not like Mexico. In
Yeah.
Mexico, for Mexicans, will be almost impossible to do this exchange to be the boss, and there to
Yeah.
change is impossible because they feel the power distance. In Japan, in Saudi Arabia, in a lot of countries are important, but in other countries like in Israel or in Argentina or other countries that the power distance is lower, it's possible that because you never felt that this is your boss and this is, say, in Mexico, Tlatoani, that is a big Aztec boss, right? Is the Tlatoani there?
Yeah.
It's not the Tlatoani, it's other guy doing performing other stuff. It's important in society with low power distance, you can do that. With high power distance, not.
Right. Right. That's interesting. That's amazing. It was so great to talk to you today, Fernando. Thank you so much.
Thank you to you, Leanne.